Dumb, cool,
weird
podcast. Hey there, folks. Welcome to the Dumb, Cool, Weird podcast. And today we are talking about the stuff.
The stuff. Have you heard of the stuff?
I have. And I know people that have eaten the stuff. And when you eat the stuff, you don't come back from it.
You become the stuff.
You become the stuff. Actually, you become fragile and people step on you and you get shattered into
You
a
get
million
punched
pieces.
in the face and you die.
Like quickly.
Your face comes off.
Yep, pretty much. So this movie's really interesting. This was another low budget like horror movie from the 80s.
That turned out to be good and have like
Oh yeah, a lot.
future big actors in it actually.
Yep. So that's kind of how it goes with a lot of these like 80s movies. You have these 80s movies where like it seems like it's going to be ridiculous, but it ends up being a lot of fun. And so
The guy who played Paul Cicero was in it.
yes. So basically how this movie starts off is these construction workers are at a rock quarry and something happens and
It was in the snowy environment.
it's snowy environment and this like white stuff bubbles up from the ground. And this fat guy, you know, because he's a fat guy, he's probably hungry. He sees it bubble up and he goes over and tries some of it. And then he's like, oh, it's so good.
You know, it's funny because it's like, you know, when's the last time you've been on a construction site and you see something bubbling out of the ground? You're like, you know what, I'm going to taste it.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but, you know, never say never. But what ends up happening, though, is they try, like, he gets his buddy to try it. And they're like, oh, we should try to sell this. And then we flash forward to, I'm guessing, like, months later.
Yeah.
And now the shit's on the market. The stuff. The best way I can describe it, it's like melted ice cream mixed with yogurt.
Yeah, it's like a Greek yogurt ice cream substitute.
Yeah. And basically what happens is we get like a bunch of executives meeting being like, how do we need to figure out how to replicate this
The
stuff.
Choco Chip Company is out of business because of the stuff.
Yep. The stuff is basically putting people out of business because it's so addictive. So they hire a saboteur to sabotage the company because they're pissed off that they can't replicate it.
Yeah.
And so they hired the guy. Do you remember the guy's name?
His name was Mo Green.
Was it really Mo Green?
It was Mo Green.
Holy shit. I thought that was just a joke.
I can't remember if it's Mo Green. It was Mo something, but his name was Mo. And he's like, why do they call you Mo? It was like, because I want Mo money after you pay me.
Yep. And then he ends up punching one of the executives out just for whatever reason.
Because he was part of the FBI.
Ah, I see.
Remember, Mo was also part of the FBI.
Yes.
He got kicked out.
Mm-hmm. So basically, we have two main characters. We have Mo, and then we have this little kid.
Oh, three.
Who's the other one? Oh, yeah,
The lady executive.
Yeah, the lady executive. So, okay, so we have three characters, and they all kind of cross paths later on in the movie. But in the beginning of the movie, we kind of see like what they're doing. She's pushing the stuff. He's trying to figure out how to sabotage the stuff.
And the kid's
And
trying to
he
destroy the stuff.
He wants to destroy the stuff. He wants no more stuff because it's like
He
making
woke
his-
up. He woke up. He didn't have that 1980s air conditioning in his house, you know, with his well-off family. And he decided, I'm going to go downstairs, you know, put some water on my face and eat the and look for something in the fridge. And the stuff is like moving around. And the sad part is, you know, instead of getting this kid like with a concerned father or anything like, oh, he's like, what the hell are you doing down here?
And he tells him to get he's like, what are you doing down here? And me and Nick are like, I mean, that's like his house. I guess he.
Yeah, we thought he was like there on a sleepover or something, but no, that's his house.
Yep. So he sends the kid back up to bed, and this is when shit starts getting weird because, like, basically, like the stuff is like all over the place. Like it's basically taken the entire country by storm. And the little kid figures it out first that the stuff is like really, really dangerous.
Yeah, because he saw it moving in his fridge.
Yep. And he notices that when people start eating the stuff, like they start getting really weird.
Yeah, like his whole family.
Like their personalities start to get very aggressive, more so than normal.
Yeah, like they're really trying to always push the stuff on you.
Basically, yes. And so Mo is traveling around trying to figure out any kind of leads he can get, and that's when he crosses paths with the executive lady.
Yeah, because his science team's trying to figure out what the stuff is.
Yeah.
And nobody can figure it out.
Yep. And so what ends up happening, though, is this all kind of leads, for some fucking reason, it all kind of leads up to a point where, like, they go to this guy's house. This guy has a Doberman. And that was like, who was that guy? That was like...
So he was the mob boss in Leon the Professional, the guy, you know, who holds the money for Leon. And he's also in Spike Lee movie, Do the Right. There's a Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, he was. But I'm saying like what? Like I'm trying to remember.
He was part of the corporate team for like the FDA that did stuff on this, that tested the stuff.
Yeah,
and his
dog was eating it.
Yeah, his dog was eating it, so his dog was like highly aggressive against him and everything. And Mo was like, Why is your master afraid of you?"
Yep, and then it turns out that we get to see what the stuff really does. So what the stuff does is it eats you from the inside out, and then when it's done with you, it like
needs a new host.
It like regurgitates you. So
like a face hugger.
Yeah, kind of like a face hugger. We kind of figured out, like, it doesn't really specify what the stuff is, but we kind of figured out it's some kind of like parasite of some kind.
Yeah.
And so basically the Doberman goes nuts, pukes up the stuff.
It had a really thing moment.
Yeah. Pretty much. And so he leaves. The kid's family gets a lot more aggressive, and then it kind of gets to the point where they meet the black guy. I do remember that.
Yeah, but that was after the kid had to get saved from his parents, and he ate the shaving cream.
Yes, he does.
And then they meet the black guy.
But they meet the black guy first, and then they meet the black.
Right.
Then they meet the black guy. Like the black guy shows up again later on in the movie. Remember?
Yeah, he was the corporate. He was the head of the chocolate chip company, and he just does kung fu.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, you got yourself a gun. These hands are lethal weapons, fool.
Yep, pretty much. And by the basically what ends up happening though is the kid like has to eat the stuff in front of his family, so he pretends to eat the stuff as he pretends to eat shaving
cream because he has to replace his stuff to save his life.
Yeah, pretty much. And so what he ends up doing is he eats the stuff, like not the real stuff, the shaving cream stuff, and then the Gillette, and then when he goes downstairs, the dad tries it, and the kid just fucking hauls ass out the fucking house, and they chase after him, and then that's when Mo shows up in his car, and he's like, "Hey, kid, get in!"
Like the most random shit.
Yep. And so they get in the car and they're driving off. And
I think the reason was because he was trying to meet the kid because remember he had his little grocery store freak out and he started destroying all the stuff. And he got pretty far destroying stuff from those 1980s adults.
Yeah, it's very true. And they end up traveling together, and ironically enough, they travel with the woman, like with the executive, to fucking Atlanta, Georgia.
Yeah.
Because they have a lead on where the stuff came from. So apparently the stuff came from Georgia.
I didn't know it snowed in Georgia, though.
I know, right?
Which happened in the movie.
Yeah, that was really weird. So when they show up, they basically find where the stuff is like manufactured, and it turns out it's not manufactured. It literally bubbles up out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I think the parasites are controlling all the people.
Yeah, because remember all the workers who were in there, they're paid basically in the stuff.
Yep, essentially. And yeah, so what ends up happening though is they
find the Georgia militia.
They find the Georgia militia, and they end up doing stuff with the Georgia militia, and they invade the area where the stuff is being captured and put into.
Yeah, the colonel is the guy who played Paul Cicero in Goodfellas.
Yep, and they basically have a war with all these workers, and they destroy everything, and you know
what though? To be fair, if there was an alien takeover, right, the people who live in like the Georgia militia and like all those those groups that they're survivalists live on their own land, they would not be affected by this stuff.
Probably not.
There wouldn't be any point to it. They would need it.
Yep, pretty much. But what ends up happening at the very end, though, is they try to do like a radio show about what's going on with the stuff before they go back and destroy it. And the black guy ends up like turning sides because I guess the stuff got to him.
You remember he went to the FBI building because Mo told him like, "Hey, you got to get the FBI on this."
Yep, and he got compromised.
Because they were, they probably were compromised by the stuff, and then fed him the stuff.
Yep, and then he had one of the funniest transformations in the entire movie.
It was actually very creepy too.
It was really creepy. And the girl and the kid get saved by Mo, and then they go back with the militia and they fuck up that fucking whole place, and then they finally defeat the stuff, and then you have there's like a nationwide burning.
Yeah, because the governor, not the colonel, did end up getting on the radio station and telling the American public what was happening with the stuff.
Basically, and then we get a final part of the movie where Mo and the kid show up to the executive's place, and they're talking, and Mo's talking to him, and they're like, "Yeah, we figured out a way to make the stuff more diluted, so it's still addictive, but it doesn't cause the bad side effects anymore." And then Mo's like, "Oh, well, that's good, but what about all the people you killed?" They're like, "Oh, it doesn't matter."
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, so would you eat it?" And they're like, "No." And then they made him eat like a whole briefcase,
just a whole case
of it
of stuff, and they're like, "Well, his family's dead, and now he works with me."
Yeah. The little kid, he's like, because remember, he's like, they're like, "Oh, not in front of the child." He's like, "This kid's seen a lot worse shit than I have."
Yep. And so they make him eat the stuff, and
then they die.
And then at the very end of the movie, it just kind of has like an eerie ending where you hear their stomachs rumbling, and you know it's about to be the
very
end
bad.
Yep. But basically, one funny thing about this whole movie, though, is people who have ingested the stuff and become like under control of the parasite, if you hit them in any kind of way, they literally just fall apart. They literally just fall apart.
They're like paper mache people.
Yeah. Because I think the stuff pretty much like drains them of all their life force and stuff, you know?
That would make sense, honestly.
Yep. So it's a pretty fun movie. I would say
it had a good ending, honestly.
Yeah, it had a really nice ending. And honestly, like, it kind of gives, like, you know, like Nick said, it kind of gives them, like, They Live kind of vibes.
Yeah, it definitely has a They Live vibe because, you know, at least in the end of They Live, you know, people are exposed to what the lizard people who control the earth are.
Yeah.
And then everyone, like, freaks out, obviously, because they can finally see the truth.
Yep. And it definitely has a pretty good ending. I mean, it's one of those movies of the week. It might have been a movie of the week, like back in the day. But I could see myself watching this movie back in the day. I would say go into this movie not expecting it to be high art or anything fucking super, spectacular, but you should definitely check it out because it's definitely interesting and it's definitely a very fun time. Because I will say the production design for the logos and for the cartons of like the stuff looks really cool. It's very, very iconic. Honestly, I kind of want a T-shirt with that stuff logo on it because I think it looks really cool. And I remember, funny story, Nick. I saw this movie when I was a kid, and one thing I do remember when I was a kid is after I watched this movie, I couldn't eat Cool Whip for like a year.
Yeah, I could see
scared
that.
the shit out of me. Like, I'm not even joking.
I thought Cool Whip was just like whipped cream.
Cool Whip is kind of weird, man. It really is, but it has a weird consistency to it, and it kind of reminded me of the stuff. That's why I couldn't eat it.
You know, I'll be honest with you. Now, every time I eat Greek yogurt,
you hear me thinking about the stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking about the stuff because that's basically what it was.
Yeah, I know, it's really weird. But as far as we can tell, the stuff is like some kind of alien parasite that lives in the ground.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's really all it is. So the dumb, cool, weird about the stuff. The dumbest shit about the stuff is really the beginning of the movie where the guy's like sees the stuff like oozing out of the fucking crater and he eats it. That's the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life.
It's snowing outside, everyone's freezing their balls, and he's like, you know what? I want to eat this stuff that's bubbling out of the ground.
And then he just fucking eats it, and it's so fucking stupid. And that's really what like causes the chain reaction where the entire movie even happens.
Yeah, no, like, I mean, the dumbest part too was like the weird. Now, if you want to go to the weird stuff,
yeah,
the weird part is how like everybody was like getting morphed by the stuff. Yeah, and how they at the end of the movie, everyone was like the big wigs who wanted to destroy the stuff, even after everyone's like, "Oh, the stuff is toxic." The big wigs are like, "Oh, well, we made a new product. It's only got 25% of the stuff."
Yep.
And then the guy's like, "Have you eaten this shit?" And they're like, "No, we didn't touch that. It's fucking peasant food."
Yep, and then they make them eat pure, like 100% pure form of the stuff, and then they're like, "Oh, well, the kid's there," and they're like, "He's like, the kid's seen a lot worse."
Yeah, the kid's like family tried to kill him, and then
yep,
he's like growing up as an orphan.
Yep.
In post-apocalyptic stuff America.
Yep. So That's the weird shit about the stuff. The cool stuff about the stuff
Yeah.
is the fact that the entire fucking military banded together. What was that? It was like the local.
That was the Georgia militia.
Yeah, the Georgia militia banded together to stop the stuff. I think that's
And it
the fucking
worked.
cool part about the movie. Just because, like, it's so believable. Because I feel like the Georgia militia would be just like that.
Well, and that's the thing though, is like they just showed up, and people believe them.
Yep.
You know, like, yeah, don't eat that stuff, guys. It's bad for you.
Yep. And then
And America just burns it all.
Yeah, and they just burn it all to the ground. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah, that was the stuff. That was all the dumb, cool, weird about the stuff. Yeah, I think another weird thing is probably when they metamorphosize into like regurgitating the stuff.
Oh my God, that's fucking weird, dude.
Weird as shit.
It's terrifying too.
Yeah.
Like you see the paper mache like figure like
Yeah.
seizing up.
This is a little bit too much. We got to stop.
Yeah.
But if you ever get a chance, definitely check it out. It's pretty fucking funny.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's not supposed to be a movie that's taken very serious because it's got a lot of humor to it, you know?
Yeah.
But I would say it's your basic 1980s cult cheese, and you should
is.
definitely check it out. And
Definitely.
I hope you guys will definitely watch it. And you want to sign us off, Nick?
Yeah. Stay sexy, beautiful people.
Thanks for checking out the Dumb Cool Weird podcast. We're a movie podcast now, so Movie Monday is every Monday about crappy movies from the 20th century. It's going to be great, folks. I can't wait to show y'all.